Hello, my name is Kamari Darrington, and I'm a sports fanatic. The people that know me will tell you that my life has revolved around sports from the very start. In fact, I now make a living covering them. From the TV to the stands, from the sidelines to the press box, I've watched sports from every possible angle. Now I share the stories that have shaped my fandom. Welcome to the My Life as a Sports Fanatic podcast. I'm Kamari Darrington. Thanks for listening. This is episode 5. Of course, you can listen to the podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this next story. I'm a huge college football fan, and I had the great opportunity to watch games live in Miami's old Orange Bowl, which was the site of some incredible games before it was torn down in 2008. In this episode, I tell you about my first time in the Orange Bowl, a 2003 matchup between the number 3 Hurricanes and the number 17 Florida Gators. The Orange Bowl, built in 1937, was the site of some of the biggest moments in the history of sports. It was the site of 5 Super Bowls. The NWA's 1987 Great American Wrestling Supercard took place there. Maryland's comeback, led by future Buffalo Bills comeback artist Frank Wright. Doug Flutie's Hail Mary for Boston College against Miami. How about Miami's demolition of number 1 Oklahoma in 1986 and number 1 Florida State in 1988? How about the marathon in Miami between the Dolphins and the San Diego Chargers and the 1981 AFC Divisional Playoff? How about Wide Right 2, Wide Right 3, and Wide Left? Satchel Paige once pitched a game there. And of course, concerts featuring everyone from U2 to the Jacksons, and scenes from various TV shows and movies, including Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and Miami Vice, have been filmed there. But still, the Orange Bowl is known as the home of the Hurricanes. When the football team emerged from the smoky helmet, you knew it was game on. And that's all I remember watching Miami growing up. As I was getting ready to determine where I wanted to go to college, I decided I wanted to go to a school in Florida. Now, I had 3 schools in mind: Florida A&M, Florida State, and Miami. The Florida State-Miami game was a must-see event, especially as the 80s became the 90s. Both programs removed themselves from the scourge of mediocrity and were now playing for national championships. Now, the game that helped me with my college decision was the 2000 clash in Miami between the Canes and the Noles. It was high noon on CBS when the broadcast networks would put big games on before 3:30 Eastern time back then. And Miami was recovering from probation and tried to prove it was back after taking a few steps back in the mid-90s. Florida State was continuing its romp through the ACC. They were currently on a 26-game regular season win streak and was just coming off its second title under head coach Bobby Bowden. More on that championship game on a future podcast episode. Now, this was the biggest game in the rivalry for a long time. If Miami won, they would prove that they were back. If Florida State had won, really would have set Miami back a little bit, and Florida State would have continued on and possibly had an undefeated season. Well, it was an October Saturday, and Miami took a 17-0 halftime lead, and then Florida State rallied as I knew it would. When Florida State quarterback Chris Winkie hit Atruz Bell on a 29-yard touchdown pass with 1:37 to play, it looked as if I was going to go to Tallahassee to spend my college years. Still not sure if I was going to go to FAMU or FSU, but I figured that's where I was going to end up being, was in the city of Tallahassee. Now, as Miami began its final drive, I was on the edge of my seat. This was also around the time where I really started paying attention to college football. Yeah, I'd watched some college football games. My first memory of watching college football was 1994 Auburn versus Florida. And, of course, I've been to Kansas State football games. Well, the Hurricanes started this final drive on their own 32, 1:37 left. And then Miami quarterback Ken Dorsey hit Santana Moss. 13 yards, first down. Jeremy Shockey caught a pass from Dorsey for 5 yards. Miami now at midfield. Dorsey then hit Reggie Wayne on a 17-yard pass for a first down, and then Shockey had another catch to take it down inside the 30 with 1 minute left. On the next play, they went deep to Reggie Wayne, but it was incomplete, and then Dorsey hit Moss on a 19-yard pass, which put Miami inside the 10 with 50 seconds left. After a false start penalty, Dorsey hit Shockey on a 13-yard touchdown pass. Miami took a 27-24 lead late in the game. You could feel the excitement of the Orange Bowl coming through the TV as after Shockey made that catch. Felt like a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulders. But Florida State silenced that crowd as it drove into field goal range and left the game on the right foot of Matt Munyon. Now you have to understand this rivalry has been marred by missed kicks. National championships have been decided by errant kicks in this rivalry. Jerry Thomas in 1991 rides wide to the right. Miami won the game. Dan Mowry tried in 1992. That was wide right too. Miami won that game and went on to play for the national championship. Now this kick from 47 yards in the 2000 game by Matt Munyon would have sent the game into overtime. Unfortunately, Munyon repeated the feats of Thomas and Mowry. It was wide right 3. Time ran out, and Miami exploded off its sideline. It had the signature win it had been looking for a long time. Now, Miami would beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl and set itself up for its 5th national championship in 2001. Florida State would wind up playing for the national championship in the Orange Bowl, but losing to Oklahoma 13-2 in the national championship, despite losing to Miami earlier that season. It's huge controversy in the BCS, one of the reasons why the BCS doesn't no longer exist anymore. Well, with that Miami win, I ended up deciding that with that atmosphere, and knowing that I wanted to go to school in Florida, why not take my talents to the University of Miami and not South Beach? And, of course, there have been other games since then that we watched. Of course, the game in 2002 between Florida State and Miami, where it ended up being wide left, not wide right, on another missed kick, this time by Xavier Betia. But we now move on to the 2003 game versus Florida. It was the first Saturday of September in 2003. I had just completed my 3rd week of my freshman year at Miami, and I went with student organization at Miami to the Metro Rail. It took us to the Orange Bowl. Most of us were wearing orange shirts, and it was also the chance to walk the field prior to the game. We all sang, or read off the big screen, the alma mater, and then it became time for Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. Now, you got to understand, this song, you had about 80,000 of our closest friends there, all singing this song in unison. Even if we didn't know the song, we at least knew the chorus, and at least the drum beat coming into the beginning of that chorus. It was a crazy atmosphere, one that reminded me of what I thought of at the end of Wide Right 3. Now imagine the first time you enter a historic venue like the Orange Bowl, and it's the renewal of the struggle between Florida and Miami. Florida didn't play Miami a whole lot back then, and so Miami was a little bit upset about that. And they took it out on them last year in 2002 with a 41-16 win. Now, I was really looking forward to this game. ABC Sports had televised it. Miami and Florida were both top 20 squads. I had remembered Florida quarterback Chris Leak from the All-American Bowl in San Antonio that he was in the year before. And I was telling the folks I went to the game with that he was really good. But we all knew who was going to win, right? Miami was going to come through and win this game. So anyway, after all of that, it was time for the kickoff. The crowd was already at fever pitch, and Devin Hester was about to take the opening kickoff. Here we go. Florida's kicker apparently didn't get the memo about Hester. He kicked the ball to him. Hester took the ball from his own 3-yard line, found his seam, and outraced everyone to the end zone. He was never touched. I never heard a sustained roar like that in my life up until then. I had been to San Antonio Spurs basketball games and Kansas State Wildcat football games, but it seemed like 15 minutes after that we cheered after Hester crossed the goal line. Well, that was the most cheering we did in the first half because Florida took advantage of some miscues by Miami, and I vividly remember Florida's first touchdown. Quarterback Ingle Martin for the Gators had all time to throw on this big play. He stepped out of the pocket, ran around. He ran around for a bit, and he stopped, and he launched the ball down the field. And I remember saying, this is going to be a touchdown. Well, Carlos Perez was wide open, caught the pass, streaked into the end zone, and tied the game at 10. Everybody was stunned, but didn't get any better. Now, Miami's quarterback that night was Brock Berlin. He had played at Florida before, and he had transferred to Miami. So maybe he was trying a little bit too hard, but he had a dismal first half. In fact, it was so bad, the fans were booing him off the field at the end of the half. Well, his first fumble, his first turnover of the night, led to another Florida touchdown and a 16-10 lead. Florida would add a field goal, made it 19-10 at halftime. So they ended up scoring 16 unanswered points. So it's no big deal. They're only down by 9. Figured Berlin would collect himself in the second half. Now he's played a half. Then the defense would stand up because they weren't playing well. And Miami would find a way to win. Well, then the third quarter started. It didn't start out so great. Deshaun Wynn took the first play from scrimmage 65 yards for the score, and Florida led 26-10. Berlin threw back-to-back interceptions, and the Blues came back out again. And the crowd was now out of the game. I think even some fans headed for the X's at that point, as Miami was not playing well on either side of the ball. Florida fans had a small section in the corner, the far side corner, to the left of us, and they were drowning out all the boos. They were so loud. They were so happy with what was going on. They were looking for a big, big upset. Well, Rand Carthon scored on a 4-yard run to give Florida a 33-10 lead with 6:10 left in the third quarter. We could not believe it. Some fans headed for the exits. People were booing and throwing beers around. It was bad. But there was plenty of time, and Florida let its guard down. We just needed one play to get us back in the game. Well, Miami started going to a no-huddle shotgun offense, and Berlin seemed to be very comfortable just standing back there and surveying the field and not having to worry about taking any 3-step drops. So he started completing some passes. The crowd was still booing them, but they started to rally behind him as they got down the field. Well, Berlin completed a 26-yard touchdown pass to Kevin Beard. He had some big plays in that second half. Florida 33, Miami 18. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Person running the music started playing some hip-hop, and the defense was waiting for the offense. And so the defense was kind of, bopping to the music, and it started to hype them up. And it started to wake everybody up, really. Miami defenders started grooving. The crowd was right there with them. It was the biggest block party I'd ever been to. So the defense forced a 3-and-out. Miami got the ball back. They threw a 62-yard pass to Beard. We all thought he ended up in the end zone. But anyway, a couple of plays later, Frank Gore scored from a yard out. Florida 33, Miami 25. Now the crowd was back in it. We were clapping for Brock Berlin. It was time for the fourth quarter, and the Miami defense held again and forced another punt. Berlin hit Ryan Moore on a 6-yard touchdown pass. Florida 33, Miami 32. 12 minutes left. This game was ours. Florida got the ball back, but a sack on third down allowed the Canes to get the ball back. The crowd was live again. Miami won an 11-play, 89-yard, 4-minute drive, which culminated with a Frank Gore touchdown from 12 yards out. Miami 38, Florida 33. We went for 2, but Berlin's pass ended up incomplete to Kellen Winslow. But we needed those 2 points. Well, okay, let's see what happens. Florida got the ball back with 1:37 left and drove it to the Miami 39. With less than 30 seconds left, Leak threw an interception, and Miami won 38-33. It was the first time I had lost my voice from cheering so much, and it was that point I knew I would love going to the Orange Bowl. There were some great games there, but the first one always stands out to me. I was sad when they demolished the old Orange Bowl to make room for Miami Marlins' new stadium. As much as Hard Rock Stadium has now become the home of the Hurricanes, it doesn't compare to the atmosphere of the Orange Bowl. That's it for this episode of My Life as a Sports Fanatic. Make sure you subscribe to get notifications on new episodes. In the next episode, the world and my family were introduced to Tiger Woods, and a pair of tennis-playing sisters from Compton will be known as Venus and Serena. You can listen to the podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.